We are back on Morning Line. Thanks for joining us. As you see on the screen there, we are talking about grief counseling. We'll get the number up there in a moment. Yeah, grieving during the holidays. And if you'd like to join in the conversation, hop in there. Talking with Ali Drescher. She is with Alive's Grief Center, the director there. And Maria Sesay is with us as well, someone who actually went through and used the services and is doing better because of it. There's help out there, which is a great thing. But we've got someone who waited through the break. Let's take Barbara's call. Barbara, good morning. Hi, Barbara.
Hi. I just wanted to call and say that Alive Hospice helps everybody really bad. Sorry if I can't say it together. They helped with the death of my husband in 2018, and they helped with aftercare, with bereavement notes coming in the mail. Their chaplain, Joel Reynolds, helped one-on-one afterwards because he was my grief counselor, chaplain at the time. And they just help every way you can ask, any way you ask. And I just wanted to let them know that I'm appreciative of what they've done.
Yes. Thank you so much, Barbara. And you are right. I'm sorry for your loss, and I hope you're still part of some of the activities at Alive. But she is absolutely right. I see Alive Hospice, you know, and that part of it, and the people that work there are saints, and the service that they provide in what I consider to be sometimes the most difficult time in any person's life are so valuable, and that's wonderful for her to share that.
It is, and we really just feel like it's such an honor. In fact, our executive director Kimberly was mentioning yesterday a quote that we're just ordinary people but trying to do extraordinary things, and we really feel like sitting with a person in that moment in one of the most difficult situations of their life, if we can be any support whatsoever, that's just a real humbling honor. Yeah,
and to hear even after the fact as well, as you said, she reaches out, and I certainly hope Barbara is still getting some assistance there if she needs it. You know, the emotions don't just go away, do they? I mean, you're sitting here on set, you look lovely and you're very composed, but even this time of year, I mean, you can, I'm sure, understand what she's feeling right now.
Absolutely. And I feel the exact same way. I love Alive Hospice. I'm such an advocate for it. When you go from the secretary, the directors, you always have a home feeling. They're always very welcoming. And I'm very appreciative of the relationship I've built with my counselor. I actually feel like we're friends.
I'm sure you are.
We are. And she really helped me to open up because my father and I were very close. He was my confidant. So when he passed, I became very withdrawn. And that's not me. I'm a very social person. So speaking to her helped me open up again, helped me become more of myself, helped me to live more. So I even think the name Alive is fitting because I feel more alive now. Again, so there is some beauty after death. I completely understand Ms. Barbara's tears and her showing her appreciation. I don't think words can tell enough.
Yeah.
So thank you all. And I'd advise anyone, not only during the holidays, but if you need the help is out there. Don't feel that you're weak, because it's definitely not a sign of weakness. I don't know why society would, you know.
They do.
Yeah.
To some degree. Well, listen, it's no coincidence that we've had nothing but female callers. And you are both female. See, pretty observant here. And it's interesting to me. I wanted to ask you then, because she's absolutely right. It's a sign of strength if you're seeking help, and that's just it. But for some reason, especially I think among the male species, you know, it's viewed as a sign of weakness if you think you can't handle your emotions and you reach out. And I'm guessing, well, I'm not guessing, it's a fact. The vast majority of the people you deal with now, aside from this, that are seeking help are female, not men. That's true, isn't it?
The majority of people that we serve are female.
Why?
I think that maybe we're accustomed to expressing our emotions.
Women
and
are more
talking it
able
through.
to maybe express their emotions and talk it through?
So there's an impression there that maybe the only way to work with a grief counselor is through talking, and that might ward off some people that are a little bit hesitant to do that, maybe men in particular. But we do have a group of men that we serve that really benefit from that. We also give them additional outlets so that maybe they're not talking, maybe they're writing, maybe they're sitting with something, maybe they're going through a guided meditation or visualization. There are other ways to connect so that they don't have to talk if that's something that they don't find beneficial for them. But we have a group of men that do. In fact, we have a men's only grief group that meets the fourth Thursday of every month from 6 to 7:30 at the Grief Center. And this is a group of guys that feel like they need a little camaraderie so that they can talk really honestly about what it's like to have a significant death in your life and how to navigate that and still show up up for work and be that person that you feel like you should or are expected to be in our society. So they really connect well together.
Yeah, and that makes perfect sense to me. I mean, I think we've all probably lost people in our lives. I've lost a grandfather, you know, but he was older, and it didn't devastate me. He lived a good life, and when he left, it was time, okay? And so I'm not sure. If I lost someone closer to me, more my age, and I haven't, knock on wood, had a lot of that, I can't relate to what you're going through. Both my parents are still alive. So if we were to sit down, I would be sympathetic and have empathy for you. But I can't say that you know, that's why I guess it's important that you have groups like this where you have individuals that have gone through it themselves so they can better relate. I can try, but I can't say I know how you feel. I can't. Right? Is that part of it?
Yes, and really when we're in that situation, when we can't relate, that's the best thing that you can say. So you have a mastery of skills in supporting grieving people, because all we need to say is that there are no words for this right now and I don't even know how to help. That can be so refreshing for a griever to hear, instead of the person that says, oh, I know exactly how you feel, when they really can't connect on that level. So grieving people can kind of see through that. They know you're trying to be helpful. They may not hold it against you, but it's really not meeting them in that moment in their heart where they need it. So sometimes it can be more beneficial for us to just say, I can't understand, but I wish you weren't having to hurt like this, and let's go through this together, and I'll be there for you when you need me.
How long did it take for you to go through this process to get where you are now? And I'm sure it's ongoing. But, okay, so this was, your father passed away, you said, in 2017?
Yes.
Okay, and so this now is going to be your second Christmas with that? Second or third?
Third, actually.
Third Christmas. Do you feel different approaching this holiday season as you did last?
Yeah, I'm actually optimistic about it. I'm excited about spending it with my family. Last year, well...
Did you kind of dread it last year or the year before, maybe?
I did.
I dread it because I love holidays, but he's not going to be here, so I dread this.
Exactly. So the first year, you know, I was traveling, and then last year I picked up a shift on both Thanksgiving and Christmas to work through it. But Christmas, I realized I was lonely, and I had not experienced being lonely. I always try to find a way to occupy my time, but that's when I knew it's time to deal with it, and I began coming to the light at the beginning of 2018. So now that I've gotten through it, I understand that holidays are going to be here. I just need to find a way to deal with it.
Yeah, they're not going
I'm
away,
looking forward to, you know, why not celebrate with the rest of my family, treasure the time I have with them. We're all still here, and that's what my father would want.
That's a great attitude. I'm just wondering, for some people that are sitting out there just wondering, maybe they're not going to seek out a life, but they're feeling this way. She described, and I had a friend that did the same thing when I think a parent passed away and they just couldn't handle it. He and his girlfriend or wife took off for the beach for the holidays, and they didn't even acknowledge Christmas. I mean, not in a negative way. It's just like, you know, I just can't do it. And they took off. You know, they were used to living in a place that was cold and snowy, and they said, you know, this year Mom's gone. Beach, that's it. And that's where they spent their 2 weeks. And it was almost like the middle of summer for them in their way. And I guess for him, it helped. You know, now I don't know if when he came back, he still had to deal with it for future Christmases, but what would you suggest? What are options? She took on more work. She traveled, you know, initially. Is that running from it, or what would you say that is?
It can be really helpful in some circumstances. I think it's important to make sure that if you're going to alter what you would typically do and do something new, like get out of town altogether and kind of steer clear of the holidays, that you just make sure that you have not just that plan A, but also plan B and maybe a C and an optional D. Because oftentimes what we think we want right now, when we're looking ahead a couple weeks, when we get to that day, our needs may be really different. And so if we haven't given ourselves an opportunity to switch gears in the midst of something, then it can be really difficult, or maybe we're dissatisfied with our choice. So I think the important thing to remember, if you're going to alter your traditions or head out of town, just know that you take your grief with you. It is a backpack that you're carrying around. That load will lighten over time, but it will be with you when you return. And so in some cases we hear that was wonderful for that moment, but when I came home and unlocked the door and walked into that empty house, it all came up again. And so consistent with what Maria said, that she sought counseling after the holidays, so we see that happen too. The end of January, there might be a resurgence of needs around our grief center, because people have realized, I got through what I thought would be the hardest days. Now I'm in the quiet lull of January and the deep winter, and I'm feeling a little bit intensity in my grief that I didn't recognize would be there.
I mean, that's, I think exactly it, isn't it? I mean, you know, you try to go through it at that time, you come back, and it's like when you have time to sit around and think. Staying busy would be the key for me, I think. In terms of, one thing, it's when you sit around and like you said, in the low of January after the holidays, that it kind of hits you.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what, I just think, all right, so the idea of getting away and avoiding it, sooner or later you're going to want to try to, you have to deal with it.
At some point. So I think denial can be a great friend. It's rooted in us. It's there for a reason. It's a survival method. So it's when we overuse it, or we use it for too long of a period of time where we're putting things aside. Just know at some point it's likely going to surface and it needs some attention. And in some cases, if we don't attend to our grief, it can come out sideways, if you will, and just that in other areas of your life you might be impacted in a negative way. And so we like to say, if you can get comfortable with your grief, become friends with it a little bit, the more quickly you can integrate it into your life, so that you're not stuck in a situation saying, I don't know what's going on with me and why I'm acting this way, but something's up. And we receive phone calls maybe 10 years after a death occurred, and someone says, I'm realizing now that maybe I never grieved the death of my person.
Yeah.
And we're there for them. We don't put any limits on time when someone initiates services. So whenever they're ready to start looking at their grief and getting more comfortable with it, then we're there to support them.
Does the grief ever manifest itself into substance abuse? You
Absolutely,
see some of that sometimes?
It can.
Did it ever tempt you?
No.
No. Okay. I just wondered, because some people might try to kill those feelings by drinking or using some kind of drug or something like that.
Yeah, so that's an escape method, just as going out of town is, and some are healthier options than not.
Well, yeah, or it could be any number of things. It could be eating, it could be
exercise.
Yes, I can see that. I actually experienced both.
What do you
while
mean?
my father, well, he had gone into cardiac arrest before he passed, and I had gained a lot of weight.
So the stress of it, you tended to eat to deal with the stress. You hear a lot of people dealing with that.
I did. I was at my heaviest, and it was actually the very end of 2017. I was like, I'm not going to go into the new year like this. I joined a gym. I was able to work out. That was my stress relief, working out. I dropped the weight, and it helped me deal with it. So I think, again, it's very important that you find a good way to deal with it.
Okay, listen, as we wrap things up, I want to remind folks again, if you would, the date and time for Tinsel and Tears. If you're thinking this hospice thing hospice thing sounds like it might help, this is a chance kind of to sample it, especially during the holidays when folks may be feeling this. So Tinsel and Tears is what? Tuesday, December 10th.
That's right.
And it's going to be at the Grief Center, the new facility there on Patterson.
Yes.
And it's on screen. Look, there's the information. Working for Grieving Children and Adults, or workshop rather, Tuesday, December 10th, 5 to 7 o'clock in the evening. You said there'll be snacks and hot chocolate and all this. But basically kind of just a chance to meet, greet, talk, and go over things, different people sharing their stories.
Yes, absolutely.
I think that's awesome. And just real quick, and we'll give this out now and again later, the general number for a live hospice, and folks may be waiting there with their pen and paper, is 615-327-1085. Okay, 327-1085. And then there's a more specific number for grief calls. If this is where to arrange maybe, a situation where you come in and get help for the grieving. And that again, same area code, 615-963-4732. 963-4732. And there's that number there. Or if you have grief, there's help out there. And proof positive is Maria here, who's got such a lovely smile, and she's dealing with the holidays. I know she still misses the father that she loved, but you can move on, and he'd want you to, wouldn't you?
Absolutely.
You never forget, but you move on. Maria, thanks for coming on, sharing your story. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.
Tell everyone there at Alive how awesome we think you guys are.
Thank you so
all right?
much. We
Thanks
appreciate
again
your
for coming
time.
on. Have a good holiday, all right?
Thank you.
I'll be back. We have a special guest from the Salvation Army next. We like to do this every year about organizations that help during this time of year. We'll be right back with them right after this.